You are listening to Woodland Walks, a podcast for the Woodland Trust, presented by Adam Shaw. We protect and plant trees for people, for wildlife.
Ruth, this is a bit of a first for us all because this is not a normal podcast. This is a sort of phone-in podcast, isn't it? So just explain to me what we're going to be doing.
So today we're going to be talking to some of the Woodland Trust staff who are based across the whole of the UK. And we're going to hear a bit about what they do and also the stories they have, because they've got a lot that they want to share with us. So I'm really looking forward to today. I think it's going to be quite exciting. And I think it will take us away from what is a slightly gloomy day in Nottinghamshire.
And we're a bit dependent and nervous about technology. So we're recording it at home and we're recording it via Zoom, and I know we've had lots of problems, but I can see your kitchen, which is wonderful, and your cake maker in the background. So no excuse not to make me cakes. And also you have a new addition to the family who has been making little appearances already.
I do. I have a little puppy called Coco who's just waking up now. She's looking forward to it because she's not had a chance to get out into the woods properly yet. She's a little bit too young, but I'm really looking forward to taking her out to some of the places that we're going to talk about today. So I'm expecting her to be listening in very carefully, and then we'll pick some places to go to. So let's go to our first caller, who is Natalie Buttriss, and she's our director in Wales. Now, we've got some amazing woodland in Wales, over 100 woods for people to visit. And the most exciting, I would say at the moment, is Brunel Wood. I hope I've said that correctly. And we're restoring the ancient woodland there and also doing some planting. So we're buffering the ancient woodland, which will give it more protection. And it's a site that's near Neath, so definitely worth a visit. So welcome, Natalie.
Good morning. Hello. Bore da, as it is in Wales.
I was hoping for a bit of Welsh there, so thank you. You didn't disappoint me.
Woodlands have been important to you as a child. Did you grow up in a sort of very rural area? Tell me about your sort of connection to them.
I had quite a dynamic movement around when I was a child. My dad was in the MOD, so we lived my early years in Gibraltar, which didn't have hardly any trees apart from up the rock, which I don't think I was allowed to go up. But the key thing for me was when we moved to Bristol, where we lived on the sort of suburbs of Bristol, and that had access to lots of trees and woodlands that I used to sort of play in quite a lot when I was younger. But in particular, I think it was the holidays that we used to have as a family. I was one of 5, so it was a big sort of family outing. And we used to hop across the Severn Bridge to the Forest of Dean on a regular basis with a caravan in tow. In all weathers, Easter, Whitsun, summer, winter, we even used to go there for Christmas. And of course, it was quite a cost-effective way to get a large family out into the countryside. So the Forest of Dean was my playground for many years with my siblings. And the family.
I was just speaking on a previous podcast to the historian Dan Snow, who also, really likes going out. But he said, look, the truth is, as a kid, my parents would drag me out, but I was dragged out, and I learned to enjoy it. But I drag my kids out. Were you sort of taken to the countryside kicking or screaming, or were you keen from an early age?
I was keen, but I think there was an element of dragging out on kind of set walks, family walks. So my dad was kind of right, we're all going out for a walk now, and we'd have to, corral ourselves. And
he was in the MOD, so he wasn't a sergeant major or anything.
No, he wasn't. He was in the Merchant Navy when he was younger, but he did have quite a regimental approach to his life, I think. My mum was very organised, so the picnic and all the stuff that used to have to, trundle along with us was her domain. And then it was my dad's domain to kind of keep us entertained and excited.
What interesting secret formulas did your father have for keeping children entertained in the woods?
Well, there are 2 games that used to stick in my mind. So when we first got there, he kind of used to use up all our energy by playing a game called Kickball Trot. I don't know whether you've ever come across that before.
Kickball Trot.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is a made up dad game or whether he actually, discovered it from someone else. But we used to find a big open area in the wood, and then somebody would have a football and kick it into the woods somewhere. And the person who was on it used to have to trundle off and get it while everybody went and hid. And then you had to find your all, and you had to get to the ball before the other person. And then on the sort of the trug home, when everybody was dragging their feet and a bit exhausted, he used to lag back a little bit, I remember, and we used to sort of, trot on ahead, wondering what was for tea and so on. And he used to run back on us and sort of go into the woods, and then sort of a bit further up, he used to make this what he thought was a bear sound, and he used to stop us in the tracks and sort of wonder what that sound was. And and then as we got older, we were like, oh, it's Dad again. It was just one of those things. That was our family thing.
No one else came across your father making bear noises in the wood. A difficult story to explain. It sounds a wonderful game. I suppose people fall on two parts of the divide, I think. Some are very pessimistic and say it's all over. This is a disaster. We're just waiting now for the disaster to hit in a big way. And some are quite optimistic about our ability to make change. Do you fall into one of those two categories?
I'm always an optimist, Adam. You have to be, haven't you, in this role? Otherwise, why would you be doing it? So, there are some really great signs, I think, that things are changing. But I think that, the environment, sort of using the word loosely, is really optimistic in terms of how trees and woods fit into that recovery. There's never been a time, I don't think, where more people have been talking about how good trees are for people themselves, for the community, for business, for Wales in terms of a national asset, or for the UK as a whole. So I think there's lots of positive narrative and actions going on that we can really take heart from. So I definitely am in the optimistic camp, and there is a lot of ground to make up. We have less than half of the wooded canopy that they do in European countries, but we have got the will, I think, to do it. I see lots of evidence of that from different sectors, farming and businesses and so on, in my role at the moment. So yeah, definitely an optimist.
So I've got a question that I always think is a little bit tricky, because this is along the lines of which is your favourite child, but do you have a favourite tree?
I don't have one specific one. The key for me is when I go out for a walk locally, there are two or three, actually there's 3 or 4 lovely big oak trees that exist in the hedgerow along. I live in a sort of area which is very rural, lots of farm fields. So just seeing how they change over the season, particularly this year as I walk past them, they're quite majestic. You have to walk underneath them because the boughs kind of overhang the single track lane. And just seeing how they change over the years, and occasionally you see an owl up there when you sort of drive under them at night. I think they're quite magical.
Well, thanks, Natalie. That was great. And so from oaks to owls, let's go to the southwest, and we're going to join Jane Craven, who's our communications and engagement manager down in the southwest. Now, I'm not sure if you know this, but Devon is where we actually started the Woodland Trust, and that was our very first wood we acquired there. And we've got a couple of really cracking sites there, Fingal and Orswell. And we're doing some woodland restoration there jointly with the National Trust. So these are massive projects for us, and it's great to be working in partnership with them. Morning, Jane.
Morning, Jane.
Hi, hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit about your connection to woodlands and why that is something that excites you.
I think for the first time this year, I was able to see and take in the nature around. So when I walked into the woods before, it was a place that I would just sort of quickly walk around. I was walking the dogs in, but I don't know why it became into much more focus. But it was just that ability, I think, walking day after day in the same area and seeing the changes that I probably hadn't really taken in before. So the first lockdown was during spring, and we started to see the bluebells come out. And I hadn't realised that just half a mile away from my house was this huge carpet of bluebells. And I don't know if like this year it was just particularly stunning, or whether it's always been there and I just failed to notice it because I wasn't walking there every day. And in recent years, I've realised that the summer, bizarrely, I'm not a person who likes the summer. I know that's a bit weird, but I don't like the heat and the intense sun. So I've discovered that woodlands are a great place to retreat to when it's really hot. You have got the shade and it's so much cooler than sort of the intense roads and built up environment. So it's my real retreat to go to during the summer.
And are you one of those people who sort of knows all about the trees when you go in them? You can spot a tree and are good identifying what it is?
So, no, I wouldn't say I am. I'm a person who probably came to conservation and to my love of nature quite late in life. So as a child, we used to go for walks in woods and it was a great playground. But my love of nature stems really from my love of animals. And it was through that and starting to survey with an expert for dormice and helping care for hedgehogs that my interest in nature really developed. And so I'm no expert on trees, although having been with the Woodland Trust for quite some time, it's certainly developed over the years. And I find that they're just amazing. They, from a wildlife perspective, they have got a myriad of creatures. So it's not just the mammals that really sort of interest me, but I'm now sort of much more interested in all the insects that live within trees, the lichens, the fungi. I mean, one of the most amazing things is the mycorrhizal fungi, I hope I've said that right, that lives in the soil and links all the trees together, providing nutrients and even enables trees to communicate to one another. I mean, who would have ever sort of thought that? So I am in no way an expert. I'm learning day by day. And I think that is kind of almost my mantra and my message to people. You don't need to be an expert to really love nature. Just start from the beginning. Don't get bamboozled by all the complexity. Look at what you like, understand why you like it, and start learning bit by bit, because that's certainly from where I came from.
You talk about trees communicating with each other. Ruth, you'll probably know about this. Wasn't there some report out recently which was going, we live in this year, it's called some name, where they seem to be, the trees seem to communicate and go, now's the time to produce an awful lot. There's some name for that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and I'm not sure what the name is, but there is something about the way that they communicate, and it is sort of underground, and it's and one of our ambassadors, actually, John Drury, who is a real supporter of the Woodland Trust, has talked about it quite a few times, and it's this strange connection that is it in the roots? We're not really quite sure what it is, but there is a way that they connect together, and it's almost like they can spot danger. And I think I'm kind of probably over-egging that, but actually it is a way that they communicate between themselves, and it's for the good of that whole network of trees in a particular area. And it sort of sounds very fanciful, but it's not. They do have a way of connecting, so it's ever so clever, and it just makes you realize how much we don't know about nature. All this thing going on, and we're just not aware of it, and all we think about is, well, we think about the trees, we might think about carbon, we might think about how lovely they are, but actually we don't really understand a lot of this other stuff that's going on that's really exciting. So yeah, it's amazing. So Jane, do you actually have a favourite tree?
I do, and it's partly in my mind, but it's an old oak tree, and it's an ancient oak tree with its gnarly bark and its nooks and crannies and insects nibbling away with sort of holes for creatures. That's the tree that I hold in my mind when I think of a tree, and it's been there for years. And if you could only tell us what history it's seen. So I imagine, noblemen riding by, or maybe lovers secretly meeting up. That's the tree I have in mind. And I think that brings me back to my love of wildlife, because I know these ancient oak trees can support, if I get my figures right, 2,300 total species. So a myriad of insects and birds and fungi. So that's the tree I have in mind when I have a favourite tree.
Oh, sounds great. Well, listen, Jane, thanks for your time this morning. It's been really interesting listening to what's going on in your neck of the woods. So from talking about trees talking to each other, we're now going to stay in the southwest and move over to Justin Milward. Now, Justin works in our land and property team, and I think he's probably got one of the most exciting jobs at the Woodland Trust. So he actually goes out and about finding places for us to acquire, whether it's to plant and create new woodland or to restore and bring those woods back to life. So over to you, Justin. Good morning.
Hi. That is the most exciting bit, and visiting a potential new site, because usually we're the first people who go there and have a quick look round and say, actually it looks really good, or no, it's got a kind of waste dump beside it, don't touch it.
Tell me about one of the sites you visited. I think it's called Craven Hill Park Wood.
Craven Hill Park Wood, yeah. So it was a sort of, dark, overcast November afternoon, very windy. And so I approached the wood, went in, and as with all woods, as soon as you go into a wood from the outside, it's like entering some sort of a large building. And particularly on a winter's evening, it's darker inside. So I went in, so it's already feeling dark. It's very windy. So the trees are rattling around, creaking and making strange sort of snapping noises, almost where I think must have been the branches hitting each other. And there was not much wildlife around. A few pheasants sort of got up, clucking away into the distance, because one of the issues was that that the wood was not being sold with the shooting rights at the time. We've subsequently bought them in, but at the time it wasn't. So I was slightly nervous that there could be someone sitting in the bushes shooting pigeons or something. So I started walking in as quickly as I could. There were also quite a lot of, although it's been replanted, there are a lot of old yew trees which tend to have a bit of a presence about them and are also very dark. So that added to the kind of slight feeling that, there was just a feeling. And so I walked in, and eventually I came to the ramparts of the old Iron Age fort. And by this time I was sort of almost jogging because the light was fading. But there was obviously an entrance through the rampart. So I went through the entrance and I fell over. Something tripped me up. And so I got up, looked back, absolutely nothing on the ground, nothing at all. So I, anyway, kept on, whizzed round the wood, tried to see as much as I can, but it's a big wood. It's nearly 200, it's over 200 acres. Obviously I couldn't walk the whole thing. So by the time I got back to the car, it was pretty well dark. Actually, I probably shouldn't be telling you this because it's probably against all the health and safety issues that we now have. And yes, wouldn't do it again, of course. And so by the time I got back to the car, it was dark, and I had the definite feeling that it was a wood where other people had been before for a long, long time. But it was a good feeling. It's not I've never been frightened in a wood, really. It's just that, their woods have their own character and presence, and this one certainly did, and I gather still does.
It must be great now, because that's 20 years ago, to actually be able to see how some of those sites have progressed. Because I think people think, trees are for future generations. I plant now, I won't see it myself. And yet actually 10, 15 years, you know, you see a remarkable difference from what is essentially just a little stick to things towering over you, don't you?
You do. It is fantastic. I mean, sadly, I don't often have a specific reason to go back to the woods, because unless there's a sort of legal problem or an issue, you know, they tend to just carry on. But when I do, it's extraordinary. I mean, it's really weird, because often I haven't seen them since they were literally fields. And they're now, as you say, they're proper, you know, they're not just little plantations, they're proper woods. Extraordinary.
It's amazing what happens, isn't it? Well, listen, Justin, thank you ever so much for sharing that with us. It's been really great talking with you this morning. And finally today, we're staying in the Southwest and moving over to Joe Middleton. Now, Joe is one of our site managers. He looks after dozens of woods and makes sure that they're safe places for us to visit. Morning, Joe.
Hello there.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. And you?
I'm good, thank you very much.
So tell us a bit about the job you do.
Morning, Adam. I am the site manager in the Bristol region, Gloucestershire. So I go from kind of Cheltenham and the Cotswolds in the north, down through the city of Bristol and Bath, and then down to the Mendip Hills, where Western-super-Mare is. I manage about 30 sites in the West Country.
Joe, I mean, you've been with the Trust a few years now, haven't you? What inspires you about working with woods and trees?
So I've been the Trust for nearly 6 years. Been obsessed with trees for about 20. I am a self-confessed tree geek. Basically, when you're an ecologist, if you tackle something big like fungi, then there's thousands and thousands to become an expert. So I just picked the easy one, trees and butterflies, butterflies and so on. So I just became, I guess, obsessed with trees. Probably it all stems from that brilliant, and I won't hear a bad word said about that, Kevin Costner film, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I absolutely was obsessed with it. Me and my mate were just obsessed with being Kevin Costner, Robin Hood, his band of merry men, and terrorizing the woodlands of Bristol, live in the trees and make the world's worst bow and arrows out of string and bits of wood in Bristol.
Right. Did you manage to make bows and arrows?
No, you know, when you're a kid, you just think you need a stick and a bit of string, and adults tell you that that's what it is. So you make one, and then literally, you wouldn't hit an elephant from like 5 yards away. They've got no power whatsoever. So you just think you're rubbish at it. Actually, what you need is some high-class, high-tensile elastic, but probably not to be trusted on a 10-year-old.
I can't remember if Kevin Costner wore green tights in that film, or was that post-green tights era?
No, that was the pre-one. There was a kind of 80s one as well. 90s, I think it was all just slightly, you know, it was kind of like a soft bit of leather and cowhide to make him look rough on a man of the woods most of the time.
Did you get the outfit for Christmas, or were you just running around?
Not yet. I am partial to a bit of fancy dress. And considering a lot of the time I spend in the woods is on my own, and I'm walking boundaries, walking pathways, and I stumble out on people quite often. I have to make sure I've got a logo on so I don't look like a weird person. If I did that in a pair of green tights, I think I'd probably get that.
I don't know. I know what I'm getting you for Christmas. For no jokes. You've got a parcel from Amazon arriving very shortly.
Well, hey. So I also write a bit of music, as Ruth might know, and Adam, you might have seen. I tend to write songs about woods and trees. I don't being out in the trees and out in the woodlands a lot. You just see and get inspired by things, and I think in your subconscious, when you're thinking of lyrics and things to write, it just sort of infiltrates into the words. So I write a lot of songs about woods, trees, birds. I had this song thrush that seemed to follow me around for about 3 weeks. So I wrote a song about song thrush and how they learn their calls. And I've written a few winter songs as well about, you know, I struggle a bit with the end of summer into winter, you know, that change of seasons, and when you suddenly realize summer's gone and you're in the depths of winter. So I use music as a kind of a therapy to help me get through that. So I've written a few about the silhouette trees recently, actually. So that's getting me through winter and lockdown at the moment.
So tell me, Joe, do you have a favourite tree?
Do you know, it used to be the oak, but it's changed recently. I used to like an oak.
Yeah.
But they get quite a lot of iconic praise, the oak. And then my niece, who is now 6 years old, was named Rowan 6 years ago. And I just love a rowan. You know, they live on the edge of some pretty, you know, inhospitable landscapes. And I've moved to Dartmoor in the past kind of few months working from home, and actually the rowans here are these beautiful, just on their own, just an individual tree across a landscape on a edge of a little river or a brook or a stream, and they don't tend to grow necessarily in huge woodlands, although you do get them on path edges and ride edges. But just the resilience of such an amazing tree to be able to grow in any condition. They're known as the mountain ash. They're not related to our native ash tree, but the rowan is native, usually found in, you know, more kind of higher altitudes like Scotland. And the rowan trees, between its, you know, delicate leaves all summer long, and then these beautiful bright red autumn berries that the birds just feast on, and, you know, provide an amazing kind of food and habitat even in the depths of winter to all the, you know, waxwings and things that come over to try and find these sources of food in what is, you know, a pretty inhospitable winter in some places. So for me, it's the rowan tree. I'm a big fan of the rowan tree, and especially after my niece Rowan.
But I don't know, do you want to play us out?
I'll do my best.
Give us one short song.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's the weight of your feet on the ground. It's the golden leaves tumbling down, and the weed building around. It's the robin's lonely song cast across the frozen pond. It's the weight of the morning dew, when the glass that you can't see through, still the breeze soaking wet is your hair. Don't go out, you'll catch a cold. Stills our breath as it floats in the air. You and I are growing old, and I feel the time in my bones. It's the cold wind whistling, it's the morning sun glistening, and the warming stones, yes, they sing. It's the frost in the valley bottoms, some are gone but not forgotten. It's nests and dens in the ground. It's the silhouette trees swaying around, still the breeze soaking wet is your hair. Don't go out, you'll catch a cold. Stills our breath as it floats in the air. You and I are growing old, and I feel the time in my bones. But your face, it doesn't change, it stays the same. And those lines, they get deeper every day, and this feeling won't go away. It's every flower racing high, it's every bee, buzzard, spider and fly. It's migrating birds in the sky. It's the still wind before the breeze, carrying wishes on dandelion seeds. It's the first time you felt true love, and the day when you knew you'd had enough. Still the breeze soaking wet is your hair. Don't go out, you'll catch a cold. Stills our breath as it floats in the air. You and I are growing old, and I feel the time in my bones. But your face doesn't change, it stays the same. And those lines, they get deeper every day. And this feeling won't go away. And this feeling won't go away.
Well, Ruth, just you and me now. So that was quite a tour around the country.
It was. I mean, and it just shows you how many people we have doing some amazing things. And I've got lots of thoughts today after this of places I really need to go and visit again, or visit for the first time, because we have got some really incredible sites. And some of those are the new places where we've just seen a difference. You know, they're starting to grow, they're starting to mature. And some of them are these sites with these ancient trees where you can really get that sense of the past. So I feel quite inspired. Not sure I want to go out today because it's snowing, although actually I suspect some of them will look remarkably gorgeous on a day like today.
There's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing. That's what. Get your wellies on. Get out there, Ruth.
I'm going to get my wellies sorted, actually. You're absolutely right. I need to go and appreciate them in all weathers.
Thank you for listening to the Woodland Trust Woodland Walks. Join us next month when Adam will be taking another walk in the company of Woodland Trust staff, partners and volunteers. Don't forget to subscribe to the series on iTunes or wherever you're listening to us, and do give us a review and a rating. And why not send us a recording of your favourite woodland walk to be included in a future podcast? Keep it to a maximum of 5 minutes, and please tell us what makes your woodland walk special. Or send us an email with details of your favourite walk and what makes it special to you. Send any audio files to podcast@woodlandtrust.org.uk. We look forward to hearing from you.